Think about a time when you solved a problem that felt impossible, like you just knew what to do. It came so naturally to you, you couldn't even believe it. Remember a moment when someone said, "How did you know how to do that?" Isn't that the greatest feeling in the world? And then recall the last time someone asked you for your advice because they see in you what you don't even see in yourself. Welcome to the Voicing Your Brand podcast. I'm Tammy Romani, and this is the place where we talk about combining a confident voice and a clear message to attract the right audience that will become your best customers. Your voice matters. So let's uncover your story, unlock your authentic voice, and unleash your message to be the voice that is heard on the noisy internet. Are you ready? Welcome to the studio. Hi, welcome back. Today I want us to do something practical together. So grab a notebook and pen or open up your phone's notes app. I'm going to walk you through what's called brand voice story mining. So when we talk about uncovering your story, first we need to uncover your natural expertise, that thing you do well, and you've either already made a business out of it or you intend to make a business out of it. Remember, you are the brand, and it's your stories that will help make people notice you and feel a kindred connection that keeps them coming back. So think on these things with me. Think about a time when you solved a problem that felt impossible, like you just knew what to do. It came so naturally to you, you couldn't even believe it. Remember a moment when someone said, "How did you know how to do that?" Isn't that the greatest feeling in the world? And then recall the last time someone asked you for your advice because they see in you what you don't even see in yourself. Okay, so now let's mine those instances for some stories you might be able to use as you establish your brand voice online. So ask yourself, what did you see that others missed? And think about this, like, how did they miss that? It was so obvious. What was it that you were able to see? And which parts came naturally to you? Like, what is your training, your life experience? What did you learn in college or even as a child? What was it that came so naturally to you because it's just part of who you are? Then think about, how did you explain it to others? If you already have an operating business, think about what challenges you've had to overcome to keep that business running. I talked a little bit in the intro of episode 19 when we first started this series that, I had the pandemic. That was huge. That was a challenge that I had to just step back and take many years long hiatus because there was so much going on, so much coming at me. And now I have lessons learned from that I will probably begin sharing about because it's now part of who I am, right? And again, that brings up this next one. How have you and your personal brand evolved over time? Well, in the last 4 years since I shut down everything during the pandemic, I've been through quite a lot, but also I've gained this sense of almost like this is what I'm made for. I have such a focus and a drive now. I actually have created a course that I'll tell you about in a few weeks, but I got the outline for that course really downloaded to me in my spirit like in 2019, and I never did anything with it. And now I am, because, like I said, I have just learned over these last few years that this is who I am. I am meant to help you speak with confidence, talk about your brand and your business so that you can help others. And in so doing, we create this ripple effect that just creates so much goodness and hope in the world. And I know that that's why I'm here. So I'm excited to be here. But Last point to think about as we're talking through some ways that you can find stories. What are some milestones that you've passed that have created some structure with staying power for you? So as you're writing these things down, take some time to do this. Look for some common themes and a thread of familiarity that will resonate with your ideal customer. Remember, even though these are your stories, the outcome is not about you. It's never about you just telling stories. You're just speaking into the void if you do that. What you want to create is a situation where others see themselves in you. This is about your clients who will gravitate towards your brand because you were real, authentic, and relatable. Okay? Now, hang on to those notes because you'll need them in the future as you start to frame the walls of your brand voice and include that kind of structure in your stories. But first, I want to touch on the idea that there's a myth about showing up online that keeps too many wisdom-rich women like you in hiding. And that is the belief that you need to look, sound, and be present just like everyone else in order to succeed. Now, I know you've seen the cookie-cutter influencers and coaches in the social media spaces. In fact, I don't know how you could miss them. This time of year, they're digging into spending their last chunk of their advertising dollars with their end-of-year pushes for whatever it is that's going to change my life in the next few months. And I don't fault them for that. Many of them have great things. I've bought some of their courses. But too many of them look and sound exactly the same. Now, if you were in the market to buy some coaching or a course, which I do heartily support and recommend, it's how we learn the good stuff these days, right? But tell me, would you buy from someone who sounds just like everyone else in their niche? Like, how can you tell them apart? I wouldn't. When I think back on all the courses I've bought, which are many, and the coaches I've paid money to learn from, there was always something about them that made them stand out from the crowd and honestly just made me know that they could teach me what I wanted to learn in a new way. I saw something in myself in them. And that's just part of attracting your intended followers, those you are meant to serve, and repelling the others. Don't feel badly that everyone doesn't love you, because that's part of marketing. You attract and you repel. So this online presence myth, it keeps far too many women and men stuck, but mostly women. So I'm going to be addressing you ladies because you're just like me. It's the idea that in order to succeed online, you've got to look and you got to sound and you got to just present yourself like everyone else, like, ooh, the popular ones. Well, they're popular because they do this. No, they're not. Let me bust that myth wide open for you, because here is what I have learned from helping hundreds of women find their voice online. Is that even though we worked together to fix what they thought was wrong with, for instance, the sound of their voice, and very often they re-recorded videos to the point of exhaustion to get everything just right, what became evident is this: polish doesn't build trust. Authenticity does. In fact, the more polished and edited and professional you look, the more the average person who is your ideal customer, well, they're just going to scroll on by and find someone else to learn from. The next thing I've learned is that experience creates natural authority. And personal experience will overrule education and training every single time. It will. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't consult with experts when giving some advice. And of course, you can't give medical advice and, be a therapist online. And there's all kinds of rules about that. But what people want to hear is how you conquered the same thing they're now facing. What resources were helpful to you? What was it like for you? And so on. And this is where your stories matter. Here's the next thing I've learned. And let me speak from a place of being an overthinker and a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to anything that I publish. Okay? I have been known to revise a printed piece of paper if I saw one word that needed to be flipped with another one. I'd already printed it up, was ready to go, but I need to fix that one thing, so I will do it all over again, okay? So I'm talking from that place right now. This is what I've learned. Your imperfections make you relatable. And I'm talking about all of your imperfections. The way you look, the way you sound, your speech patterns. I know I teach people how to overcome certain speech patterns that might be annoying to people, but basically, that's part of who you are. So I often will tell people, this isn't something you really need to fix. Everything that you cringe about in yourself is something that makes others lean in and know that you're the real deal. So embrace it all. Love yourself the way that you are, and others will love you too. You know what my most successful clients have in common? They stopped trying to be perfect and started being present with their audience. Let me say that again. The most successful online marketers stopped trying to be perfect and started being present with their audience. So now, if you're curious about diving deeper into building your authentic brand voice, I want to invite you to download my free brand voice blueprint that will help you map out the steps you need to take. The Build a Brand Voice workshop will be launching very soon, so get ready because that's where we'll transform these concepts into your unique strategy for standing out online. And we're going to go through much of that here on this podcast. But for now, I want to thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you've taken some notes, and we're going to move on and go deeper into these concepts in the next several episodes of this series, okay? Remember, your voice matters. Your experience counts, and someone needs to hear exactly what you have to share. Thank you so much for listening to Voicing Your Brand. If you enjoyed today's episode, would you consider sharing or subscribing to the show? That helps podcasters out so much. For details about this episode and links to resources we've talked about, head on over to tammyromani.com and choose Voicing Your Brand from the podcast tab to see the show notes. I'm your host and producer, Tammy Romani. Let's get together again real soon. Until then, remember, your voice matters. Your story matters. And someone is waiting for you to step into your calling and be a bold voice of hope for them.